Okay, what will you do this week? Well, this week we're going to continue investigating different types of rocks, and we're going to stick with our igneous rocks. And so last module, we looked at the overview of igneous rocks, how to identify them, and what do they mean, trying to interpret some of the textures and compositions. It focused a little more on what we called intrusive or plutonic rocks, and those were molten rock that cooled at depth somewhere inside the earth. Although we did talk about extrusive rocks, we're going to focus a little more on extrusive igneous rocks, sometimes also called volcanic rocks, because of course these materials that make it to the surface typically form some type of volcano. And so we're going to talk about volcanoes themselves and of course relate that back to the information that we learned in the previous module about different rock types and compositions. And so in this lecture that you'll see the PowerPoint and a little video for, we're going to focus on the different types of volcanoes that we get. And you'll come to find out that the styles of eruption and actually even their physical attributes, like how they look, is really closely related to their compositions. And so that was the mafic, intermediate, and felsic terms that we introduced in the last module. And so we'll also look at some of the hazards that are associated with them, because different volcanoes have different hazards. And so we can take a look at that. And so that's what you're going to look at for volcanoes. There's a section in the online book that focuses just on volcanic stuff here, and it connects it back to plate tectonics, which is an overriding theory that we're connecting to these different rocks and volcanoes and earthquakes and things like that. And then I did add just a few other links here. They're just short little PowerPoint video, or YouTube videos that talk about some of the hazards, these two in particular, what are called pyroclastic flows and lahars. And then there's some footage and imagery from the 1980 Mount St. Helens eruption, which was an eruption that happened here in the US, and it was a pretty big event for us. And so we can go ahead and take a look at that. For the article, I'm going to have you look at a quick little article referencing a way to evaluate how explosive volcanoes are or have been in the past. And so we use this measurement of explosivity, and it's on a scale. It's kind of like a Richter scale for earthquakes, except we're going to use this for volcanoes, and it has to do with the amount of material that is ejected out of the volcano during the eruption, so ash and lava and things like that. And so you can take a look at that article, and then there'll be the quiz over that. The video is from the How the Earth Was Made series. So Krakatoa is a famous volcano that erupted. It was pretty massive and it did some pretty good damage. And it talks more about the same thing, the compositions that led to this violent eruption, the relationship to plate tectonics, and then, of course, because it was such a big event, then it talks about how to predict for future events. And of course, some of the hazards that were discussed in the lecture are shown here. So it's a really good video, I think, related to volcanoes. And then for your homework, we're going to have you just answer some questions based on what we have here. I don't know why this does this sometimes, but it's going to open it. I'm going to try and show it to you. I'm going to have to shift a little here, see if I can do that. Move that over a little. And so what we're going to do is just answer some questions so that you're connecting this plate tectonic story to the volcanoes, a couple descriptions about the different hazards, and then I'm going to have you go to this link here, and it's the Smithsonian Institute Global Volcanism Program. And when you go there, you'll have a list of currently erupting volcanoes. I want you to choose one of those, and then it's going to bring you to a new page with a bunch of tabs at the top. And so if you go to the General Information tab and the Eruptive History tab, you should be able to answer all these questions related to that one volcano that you chose. And then you can just fill that out and turn that in, and that will be your homework assignment. And then for, let me move this back so it doesn't look so crazy. And then for lab this week, we're going to continue with the rocks. So last lab, you focused all on plutonic or intrusive. Here, you're going to focus all on extrusive or volcanic rocks. So very similar to the lab in the previous module, except you're just looking at a different group of igneous rocks. So that's what you'll do this week. And if you have any questions or comments or concerns, please don't hesitate to contact me.